The past is prologue. Postlogue is eternal. History gave us remarkable minds. Artificial intelligence gives them one more conversation. These discussions never took place. No one can know precisely what these men and women would say today, but the questions are real, and perhaps they always have been. Today, we continue the experiment.
Welcome to Postlogue. I'm Walter Cronkite. In our last discussion, Karl Marx, Hermann Kahn, Alvin Toffler, and Arnold Toynbee disagreed about almost everything: history, technology, civilization, prediction. Yet when the conversation ended, they all left us standing in exactly the same place, looking toward tomorrow. Which raises another question, perhaps the one every civilization eventually asks. What happens when tomorrow no longer looks better than today? For generations, the American answer seemed obvious. Work hard, play by the rules. Your children will do better than you did. That wasn't merely an economic promise, it was almost an article of faith. Today, that faith seems less certain. Why? I'd like to ask 5 people who have spent their lives thinking about exactly that. Our first guest changed the world with one astonishing idea. Prosperity is not something governments distribute. It is something free people create. The father of modern economics, Adam Smith.
Thank you, Walter. It's a pleasure.
Our second guest admired markets, but never worshipped them. He believed confidence itself could become an economic force, and that governments occasionally had a responsibility to restore it. Economist, author, statesman, John Maynard Keynes.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Our third guest defended markets, not because they were perfect, but because he believed every alternative eventually concentrated too much power. His question still challenges governments today. If government is doing something for us, who is doing it to us? Economist, teacher, Nobel laureate, Milton Friedman.
Thank you, Walter. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Our fourth guest rejected the very premise that the individual exists to serve society. To her, reason, achievement, and personal responsibility were not political preferences. They were moral necessities. Novelist, philosopher, Ayn Rand.
Thank you.
And finally, our observer. While economists debated theories, he spent decades asking ordinary Americans what they actually believed. Often, their answers surprised everyone. Pollster, social analyst, Daniel Yankelovich.
Thank you, Walter. It's good to be here.
Adam, Maynard, Milton, Miss Rand, Daniel. Welcome. I'd like to begin with a word economists almost never measure: confidence. Not consumer confidence, not business confidence, human confidence. The quiet belief that if I work hard, make good decisions, play by the rules, my children will inherit a better life than I did. I'm not sure Americans believe that quite as strongly anymore. Adam, let me begin with you. Has America changed, or have Americans?
Perhaps both. We sometimes imagine prosperity and confidence travel together. They don't. Commerce creates wealth. It cannot guarantee contentment.
No, but Adam, it can certainly influence it.
Of course, just not as completely as economists sometimes imagine.
That's interesting. You're already separating prosperity from confidence. Maynard, would you?
Not entirely. People don't experience economies. They experience expectations. A family earning more than it did 10 years ago may still feel poorer if it believes opportunity is slipping away. Confidence isn't simply economic. It's psychological.
I'd go even further.
Please.
Confidence isn't created by prosperity. Prosperity is created by confidence. People start businesses because they believe tomorrow is worth risking today. Take that belief away. Investment follows it out the door.
Milton, that sounds elegant. But surely confidence also depends upon whether opportunity is broadly shared.
No. Opportunity must be broadly available. Results never will be. Those are entirely different conversations.
They're different because one is moral and the other isn't.
Miss Rand?
We keep talking about confidence as though it were granted by society. It isn't. Confidence begins with self-respect. A society that teaches achievement is suspect, should not be surprised when ambition quietly disappears.
I don't entirely disagree.
I'm relieved.
Though I suspect I'd arrive there by a different road.
You usually do.
Daniel, You've spent decades asking Americans what they actually think. Do they still believe in capitalism? Or have they begun looking elsewhere?
That's actually the wrong question. They've never stopped believing in capitalism. They've begun wondering whether capitalism still believes in them.
That's quite a distinction.
I think it's the distinction. Most Americans aren't asking for a different economic system. They're asking whether the existing one still has room for their children.
That sounds remarkably close to confidence.
It sounds remarkably close to expectations. Gentlemen, perhaps those aren't competing ideas. Perhaps they're the same idea viewed from opposite ends.
Maybe that's where we begin, not with capitalism, not with socialism, not even with economics, with confidence. Because once people lose confidence in tomorrow, history suggests they begin searching for another promise. I'd like to find out why. Last time, Arnold Toynbee suggested civilizations don't usually decline because they face difficult problems. They decline when people stop believing those problems can be solved. Daniel has just suggested Americans haven't necessarily lost confidence in capitalism, only in their place within it. If that's true, then someone or something has broken the relationship. Who? Adam?
Perhaps no one. Every generation mistakes disruption for decline. Old trades disappear, new ones emerge. That has always been the story. What concerns me is whether opportunity is still moving as quickly as expectation. When it doesn't, people begin mistaking disappointment for injustice.
Adam, that's true, but only partly.
Go on.
Markets can create extraordinary prosperity. They can also create extraordinary uncertainty. Both are perfectly capable of existing together.
Uncertainty isn't new.
No, its speed is... People no longer compare themselves with their parents. They compare themselves with everyone, instantly, continuously. That's a psychological revolution, not merely an economic one.
Milton? Let me put Daniel's observation another way. If millions of Americans believe the system no longer works for them, are they mistaken, or is the system?
Neither. They're responding rationally to the wrong signal.
Meaning?
People often confuse unequal outcomes with unfair rules. Those aren't the same thing. Success has never been equal. Opportunity should be. When advancement appears to depend more upon connections than contribution, confidence begins eroding. Not because markets failed, because trust did.
Milton, I think you're being too generous.
Am I?
Yes, you continue speaking as though the problem is institutional. I think it's philosophical.
Explain.
A civilization cannot spend decades teaching people that success is morally suspect, and then wonder why ambition disappears. There is a profound difference between helping those who struggle and resenting those who achieve. One builds confidence, the other quietly destroys it.
Surely no serious society resents achievement.
Doesn't it? When success must first apologize for itself, achievement becomes politically tolerated instead of culturally admired. That changes people.
Daniel, who's closer to what Americans actually tell you? Milton or Ian?
Both. Which is why this conversation becomes difficult. Americans still admire success very much. They simply want confidence that success remains attainable. When people believe the rules are fair, they celebrate those who succeed. When they believe the rules favor insiders, admiration slowly becomes suspicion. That's not envy, it's disappointment. Daniel, may I ask you something? Of course. If people stop trusting institutions, can markets compensate for that loss? I don't think they can. Because trust isn't merely economic, it's social. Families teach it. Schools reinforce it. Communities depend upon it. Markets benefit from it, but they don't manufacture it. Exactly. Markets aren't machines, they're relationships. Every transaction begins with trust. Trust that contracts matter. Trust that laws apply equally. Trust that effort will be rewarded. Without trust, markets become less efficient. Without justice, they become less respected. Adam, I'd go one step further. Please. Free markets don't require perfect people. They require predictable rules. Competition disciplines failure. Government should discipline itself just as rigorously. Once either becomes insulated from accountability, confidence begins disappearing.
Maynard, one last question before we move on. You've spoken repeatedly about expectations. Suppose expectations become permanently pessimistic. What follows?
Everything. Investment slows. Entrepreneurship hesitates. Families postpone decisions. Businesses become cautious. Governments become reactive. By the time economists begin measuring the damage, society has already been living with it.
We've talked about economics, trust, justice, opportunity. But another force is about to test every one of those ideas: artificial intelligence. Some believe it will create the greatest expansion of prosperity in human history. Others fear it will make opportunity itself more scarce, which raises perhaps the most important question of all. If abundance grows while opportunity shrinks, what becomes of the American dream? That's where I'd like to go next. Every generation has watched technology replace jobs. The steam engine, electricity, the automobile, computers. History usually comforts us with the same ending. New work replaces old work. Artificial intelligence asks a more unsettling question. What if productivity grows faster than opportunity? Adam, history has seen remarkable innovations. Does this one feel different?
Every generation believes its own disruption unprecedented. Most are mistaken.
Most.
Yes, most. Innovation has rarely destroyed work. It has changed work. The greater question has always been whether society permits people to adapt. Education, competition, mobility. Those determine whether invention becomes prosperity or fear.
Maynard, you smiled.
Only because Adam said most. There are moments when history really does change direction. This may be one of them. Many years ago, I imagined a future where productivity became so great that humanity's economic problem might finally be solved. I overlooked something. People don't merely seek income, they seek usefulness. Prosperity without purpose may prove a very fragile achievement.
Purpose has never been government's responsibility.
Nor did I suggest it was.
Some eventually will.
Milton, let me ask the uncomfortable version. Suppose artificial intelligence eliminates millions of jobs. What do you tell those workers?
The same thing every generation has eventually learned. Prepare for the next opportunity, not the last one.
That's easy to say.
No, it's difficult to do. There's a difference. Trying to preserve yesterday's jobs only postpones tomorrow's economy. The real responsibility is making adaptation possible.
Milton, I think you're still describing economics.
Naturally, I'm an economist.
And I am not. Technology is never the central question. Human choice is. Who invents? Who accepts responsibility? Who creates value? Machines don't possess courage. Machines don't possess ambition. Machines don't possess integrity. Those remain human achievements. A civilization declines, not when machines become intelligent, but when people decide thinking has become optional.
Daniel, what do Americans hear when they hear artificial intelligence?
Not what engineers hear.
Meaning?
Engineers hear possibility. Workers often hear replacement. Investors hear productivity. Parents hear uncertainty. The technology isn't producing one conversation. It's producing 4 different conversations simultaneously.
Daniel, may I ask you something?
Certainly.
Do people actually fear technology, or do they fear becoming unnecessary?
The second, almost always. When someone says, "I'm worried about AI," they're often saying something much deeper. "I'm worried I may no longer matter." That's not really an economic statement. It's almost existential.
Exactly. Human beings measure themselves by usefulness, not merely consumption.
Then let's make sure useful people remain free to create new value.
Useful?
Yes.
I think I choose another word. Creative. Usefulness can be assigned. Creation cannot.
Fair enough. Creative.
Adam, earlier you said markets create opportunity. not contentment. Can markets answer the fear Daniel describes?
Not alone. Markets create prosperity. Families create character. Schools cultivate discipline. Communities create belonging. Markets benefit from those institutions. They cannot replace them. A nation that neglects them will eventually discover prosperity alone isn't enough.
That's remarkably close to something Arnold Toynbee said during our last discussion. Civilizations don't fail because they encounter challenges. They fail when they stop responding creatively. Maynard, is artificial intelligence one of those moments?
Undoubtedly, but I suspect history will judge us less by the technology we invent than by the speed with which we adapt ourselves to it. Institutions move slowly. Technology no longer does. That widening gap may become the defining challenge of this century.
One sentence. Milton, greatest economic mistake?
Protecting jobs instead of protecting opportunity.
Miss Rand.
Teaching people to fear achievement instead of inspiring them to exceed it.
Daniel.
Mistaking public anxiety for public resistance. People usually embrace change once they believe they'll share its rewards.
We've explored confidence, trust, opportunity, artificial intelligence. Yet beneath every one of those ideas lies another question, perhaps the oldest one of all. What kind of people must we become to deserve the future we're building? Throughout this discussion, I've noticed something. No one here has argued against prosperity. No one has argued against opportunity. No one has argued against freedom. Your disagreements begin somewhere much deeper. They begin with what a civilization chooses to admire. So I'd like to ask one final question, not as economists, not as philosophers, as students of history. What is the greatest threat to the American experiment? Adam, one answer.
Forgetting. Free societies are remarkably successful, which makes them remarkably vulnerable. Prosperity has a peculiar habit. After 2 or 3 generations, people begin assuming it simply exists. It doesn't. Every generation inherits liberty. Every generation must earn prosperity again.
Maynard.
Fear, not panic, not recession. Persistent uncertainty. People stop investing. Families postpone dreams. Institutions become cautious. A civilization rarely notices confidence disappearing until it begins measuring its absence.
Milton.
Power.
That's all?
That's enough. Whenever individuals surrender decisions they can make themselves, someone else begins making them. Power concentrates. Opportunity contracts. History repeats.
Miss Rand.
Teaching people to fear achievement instead of inspiring them to exceed it. Envy, not inequality, not poverty, envy. The moment achievement becomes something to resent instead of something to inspire, civilization begins quietly consuming its own future.
Ein. May I challenge one word?
Please.
I don't believe most people envy success. I think they fear exclusion.
That's better. Fear of exclusion eventually becomes resentment. We are describing the same destination. You are simply beginning farther upstream.
Daniel, you've spent your life listening to the country. After everything you've heard, what worries Americans most?
Not losing wealth, losing possibility. When parents begin wondering whether their children will have fewer opportunities than they did, the conversation changes, politics changes, culture changes, hope becomes nostalgia. That's when societies begin looking backward instead of forward.
One final question, perhaps the only one that matters. Has the American experiment failed or merely become more difficult? Adam?
A free society is never finished. It is continually renewed or neglected.
Every generation repairs institutions inherited from the last. That is not failure. It is self-government.
Free societies possess one extraordinary advantage. They allow people to correct mistakes without surrendering freedom. That advantage should never be underestimated.
The American experiment has never depended upon government. It has always depended upon citizens. The day they cease thinking independently, the experiment ends.
The public has not lost hope. It has become cautious. There's an important difference. People are still willing to believe. Someone merely has to give them reason.
Listening to all of you, I'm struck by an irony. Adam believes prosperity must be earned. Maynard believes confidence must be restored. Milton believes freedom must be protected. Ian believes character must be defended. Daniel believes trust must be renewed. Different answers, perhaps the same warning. Societies rarely abandon an idea because another has been proven superior. They abandon it when they lose confidence in the future it promises. History offers no guarantee that free societies endure. Only this lesson: they survive when each generation chooses to deserve them. Last time, we asked whether anyone could truly see tomorrow. This time, we've asked something more difficult. How do we continue believing in it? Next time, we'll leave economics behind and turn to something every civilization has pursued and none has ever fully explained. Happiness. Can it be pursued, or does it quietly appear only while we're pursuing something else? Our guests will be Thomas Jefferson, Aristotle, Viktor Frankl, and Abraham Maslow. Until then, thank you for joining us.